So my name's Elizabeth E.Eubanks. I am the lead gardener here at From Ground Up Community Garden. And a little teeny bit about the garden. We're here about 20 hours a week, Andrew and I predominantly. And we're here volunteering with volunteers. Haley's been an amazing volunteer as of late. So the garden is funded and sustained by Innisfree Hotels. We're part of the Hive, which is their corporate social responsibility program. And that's where Aiden comes in. Aiden works for Innisfree Hotels, and she's part of Be Loud, which is our marketing team. So we're super happy to have the garden here. Our main number one objective is community. Number two is education. I am a teacher. Number three is organic gardening. We practice that here, not 100% because of some issues with ants and wasps and lots of kids, but we do the best that we can, and that's what we practice here. And then we also are interested in performing arts and visual arts, and then also we just wrap it right back up to community. So we only have really, I guess, our main objective is just to bring people together and to share, whether it's music or gardening or anything like that. The bathroom that we use, I've told most of y'all, is over there at the police station. Now, when you come to an event, we do try to sustain the garden so that we can say, take your money, Innisfree, we don't need it, give it to somebody else. And really, that's our overall objective at the end of the day, is we really want to be able to say, we've done this for 5 years with this much money, and we can run a community garden just like this, and we are a model, and we can give that away to other people. So we do have bathrooms, a porta potty when we have music events, which is how we make some money. But for now, we use the police station, and you pay your taxes, so we're all good on that. So we have events like this where we take donations and all that kind of stuff. We have swag. We have beautiful new cups over there. Andrew's not for sale, but he's at the table. Chips, but I don't know. You could put a price on him. And we do have some seeds for donations and turmeric and stuff like that. So anyway, all these ways that we kind of sustain the garden, really. So this is the first story slam. I'm a big, huge fan of the Moth. And if you don't know the Moth, I invite you to listen to it. And my favorite is Fireworks Under the Sky or something like that, or Fireworks from Above. It's a beautiful story. If you haven't heard it, I will text you the link, or you can Google it, but it's my favorite. I'll probably listen to it 20,000 times and shared it with people. So wherever that girl is, I thank her. I don't even know her name. I think it's Faye. But I want to introduce Becca. Becca is so kind. Becca actually runs the Everman's Garden, so we have a little bit of community here. Oh, and sorry, before I go there, Becca, I do want to put a little plug in for UWF. We are partnering this event with them. They are having an event tomorrow, and I think it's from 3 to 7, and it's a plant swap at their UWF garden. So if you can hit them up, please do. We are partnering this event. I think it's more like you swap a little money for the plant, but they're not having a plant sale. This is technically one of their sponsorship events. So if I'm not mistaken, am I right, or do you even know? Yeah, it's pretty much. So the swap is a little money, or, you could buy a pavilion, I think. I think they get that kind of money. We don't get that kind of money yet. But anyway, we are growing, and we're very appreciative of all of our sponsors and what people do here for us. So Becca works at the community garden over at Everman's, and she's spreading the community over here. So I guess we're partnering with Becca and Everman's too. She also has little green bees. So she has beehives, and if you don't know her, you will in a minute here. Real quick, in case you scoot out, we do have an event on Friday night. We have Roman Street. They're brothers from Fairhope, Alabama, and they're flamenco players. They're amazing. And then on Saturday, we have an event all day. Starting at 3 o'clock, we have an Earth Day extravaganza where we've invited vendors to come in. Becca will be there, and James will be there with his massage table as well. So we have people coming in for that starting at 3. At 5 o'clock, the slow riders will be coming in, and if you don't, do you all know what slow ride is? Slow ride, do you know? And you can borrow my bike if you want, and you can borrow Rob's bike too if your boyfriend's here. But anyway, the slow ride is basically bicycles and bike Pensacola. You can come in right through here, this way. So we kind of got booted from the police, so we're kind of using this gate on the side over here. So anyway, the slow ride is amazing. We could expect up to 400 bikers, and you just ride your bike for an hour around town. It's great. And then the vendors will stay until 7 or as long as they want, and then at 7 we have ratatouille, and believe it or not, that's a sellout. So people are excited about stories in Roman Street and volunteer hours, but they're really excited about ratatouille. So Becca, if you'd like to come up, thank you. And I'm happy to go first. I didn't sign on there, but I'm happy to go first.
Okay, everybody. So what I'm here to do is to kind of facilitate the storytelling. And if you signed up, then I'll have your names. If you didn't, then I'll just point and you come up. Go ahead and raise your hand if you're telling a story. Yes, yes. Yes, 4 people. Good. So we have 4 storytellers tonight, and our judges. Where are our judges? Okay, you're also judging. So we have we have 3 judges, no, 2 judges, not 3. Okay, so we have our 2 judges, and there is a criteria. The first criteria is don't go over your time limit. You have a 5-minute time limit, and what's going to happen as you're telling your story okay, great. At the 30-second mark, you'll hear a little ding, like there's the thing. Could you ding for us, please? That's what you'll hear. At the 5-minute mark, you'll hear 2 dings. I probably shouldn't tell you this, there is a 1-minute grace period. So try not to make too much use of that. But what we want in this is a beginning, a middle, and what? An end! Exactly. So pretend you're back in 3rd grade and you're writing an essay. And you write a beginning, a middle, and an end. You want it to be clear. You want it to be entertaining. You want it to have a point, not just kind of rambling. Maybe some epiphany that happened to you or something exciting, because that's one of the judging criteria. It needs to be a personal story. You can't get up here and just make up a story about something cool that could have happened on a beautiful, bright, sunny day in Pensacola. It needs to have happened. And what else? You can't read it from paper or a device, so it needs to be a memorized personal story. And you must stay within the theme of flower power. Flower power, I like to think of flower power as getting, your power or energy from the things from nature that's surrounding you. That's kind of like what I was thinking. If I'm too far off base, okay, good. Anything. We also have little pieces of paper. If you have thoughts on flower power while other people are telling their stories or in between stories, write them down because we want to share those as well. Elizabeth E.Eubanks.
Don't start timing me yet. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for letting me share. It's the first time I've done this. So I am an educator by vocation. I taught for 20 years formally in a classroom setting, and then now I get to teach out here at the Garden. While I was about in my 10th year, give or take, I was learning a very important lesson. And that lesson is that whatever you say, whether it's a promise or a threat to a middle school student, you better follow through with it, because your reputation is at stake, and they're going to remember, and they're going to track everything that you do. So I was trying to practice that. During that year, we were also having a horrible time at school because our principal, who I actually really liked a lot and who supported me, was being railroaded by a family, and they did not like her, and they wanted her fired. And by, I would say, January, February, they got their wish. She was to be fired, and she had to work through her contract till May, but she knew it, we knew it, the teachers, I don't know if the students did, but probably they did. It was a very trying time. On top of that, her husband was diagnosed terminal and was in hospice, and they didn't care. So I teach middle schoolers. I taught middle schoolers. So if you know them, they're a bit trying and stressful at the same time. So there's a young lady named Katie Apple Cider, and I call her that affectionately because I did love her. And I taught her brother, and I loved her family, but she was driving me nuts. Katie was breaking rules. Actually, I chatted with her recently, and she said, oh yeah, I was a rule breaker. And I was like, well, that's why I liked you, because I'm a rule breaker too. But man, she was driving me nuts. So out of uniform, talking, just going crazy. So Katie Apple Cider wanders into class with the entire 6th grade class on this given day, and she's wearing a choker. And I lose it. And I'm like, you have a choker? You're out of uniform. You have detention with me for 2 weeks. 10 hours every day after school. And then I'm like, oh my God, what did I just do? Because this kid's driving me nuts. I don't want to be with her for 10 hours. And I know she's thinking, oh my God, I don't want to be with her for 10 hours. So I had a choice to make. Do I bail? Because it's easy to bail, right? Or do I follow through? And all I kept thinking is every 6th grader heard me, and I have to teach them, those exact kids, for 2.5 more years. I have no choice. I have to follow through because my reputation is at stake here. So I was thinking, what could I do? And I had all these gardens around school, which is not surprising, mostly food gardens. But there was this little plot of land that was in between the school and the church, and it was all grass. And I said, Katie Apple Cider, you bring your shovel, you bring your gloves, we're digging. And we dug, and we dug, and we dug, and we dug, until, of course, I loved Katie Apple Cider. She was a very hard worker. We're rebels at heart, kindred spirits. So we dug, and we bonded. And at the end of all this digging the grass, she's like, so what are we going to plant? And I said, well, I have these sunflower seeds. And her dad even donated a bunch of soil. And so we planted probably 100 sunflowers in this little path where the car line went through. And we decided to dedicate that garden to the principal and to her family because they were having such a horrible time. So we made a little sign, and it was dedicated to her. And as January hit February and March hit April, and April showers brought May flowers, and graduation came, and the principal was due to leave, the flowers are big now, and their heads are just shining. And we hope that the principal got as much joy as we did out of that. But for me, as a middle school teacher, and this is where I get a little choked, I had this kid, this 6th grade middle school girl, and if you know them, they're crazy. But she would look at me, and she would point at those flowers, and she would give me a high five, and she would say, best detention ever. And that is the power of the flower. Thank you. That's my first story ever, too.
Wow. I love this already. That was awesome. So, do we have any more flower power writings? Yes. Flowers always make me smile. The math, the math, the math. It is complicated. And I understand it. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, our next storyteller is Christine Salome.
All right, symbolize my emotion here. My first. Okay. To me, I think we are all being born from the universe. And as the universe, it's infinite and with an unlimited power. And unfortunately, around the age of 8, I lost that feeling of everything was possible. I used to be facing harassment, bullying, physical abuse, and even sexual abuse. And dark, everything was dark, no possibility to live, and it was my shower that thunderstormed a hurricane in my life. And I couldn't see light again, and I felt that it would no issue, but I went through books and self-help books and seminars, and I read that the power is within us always, and we can do whatever we want if we dare. So I was like, well, yeah, that's possible, cool. So, and I was so enthusiastic because I was like, okay, my character, my way of being, it's not stuck, it's not fixed, I can move on, it's an evolution, it's not, okay, so I was very hopeful and I learned a lot. And I learned with the method, ESPER method in France, and that taught me to be responsible of myself, self-accountable, dare to say, I like it, I don't like it, I dream of that, I can't stand that, dare to say without being judged, why not? And then I felt very stronger with this technique, this tool, this relational tool. It's very like the gardening. We dig, we pull the weeds. So in my life there's something bad that came, and now I can say this. When I was 8 years old, it wasn't good for me, comes with for that person. You were 30 years old or something, I give it back to you. It's a symbolic, it's non-violent communication. And I can restitute, I can heal, I can do like a cleansing. Like we brush our teeth after a meal, we can do like a respect ourselves, our body, and only welcome what is good for us, not what is not good. So now I can position myself, I know my limits, and I can help people who face that, to help them to be a better companion for themselves and for the others. And now I really enjoy life. I have no fear. If I have a fear, I know behind every fear there is a desire. So I prefer going with the desire, and the fear is behind, and I'm 360 open, and that's fantastic. So all that to say that, okay, it can be hurricanes, showers, but the seed with the wind can be planted, and I could see it growing, watering, taking care of it, and now my yard inside me is flourishing, and I feel more alive, and that's very something that I want to share, and I thank Innisfree and UWF to do this beautiful moment where we can share and learn from each other. That's fantastic. I wish every neighborhood has one, and because Facebook, it's okay, but I prefer to see people in the eyes and learn from them and interact. So this is a beautiful opportunity for me to share, and my goal in my life is to help people and to help them to be a good companion. Last time I was walking on the beach and I saw, this altar with for the weddings, and I positioned myself in between. I did like that. And voila, this is my marriage inside me, masculine, feminine, and I'm whole now. Voila. And then it's a symbol to say that we have to be a good companion for herself and dare to live. Voila, thank you so much. Thank you.
That was beautiful. Yours as well, Elizabeth. Something Christine said, I just wanted to repeat it. The other side of fear is desire, so go after the desire instead of the fear. That's amazing. That's like worry and hope, or worry and faith. The other side of worry is faith, and thank you so much for sharing that. So looks like we have. I thought you were up here to tell us. And going off that, I don't really have a story, but anytime I know that I have been anxious or scared or worried, if I can get into a garden or buy a new plant or plant a new plant, I see everybody shaking their heads. I'm with the right group. Okay. Just put my hands in the dirt. And as a beekeeper, I also found that has been very therapeutic. So because bees respond to your, I can't think, for lack of a better word, your vibe and your pheromones. So if you're anxious and you're working with a beehive, the bees are going to be anxious. So when I would be really scared or sad, I would just go outside and open up a beehive because it would force me to instantly calm down. And the same with the garden. So thank you guys so much. I'm loving this. And our next storyteller is Soren.
Hey everybody, I'm Soren. This is actually my first time here. This is a really beautiful place. I love the garden. I really liked what you said about characters and the characters that we play. That's something I think about a lot, and I think is related to flower power. So are mirrors. That's a conversation topic that comes up a lot in the community, and I think my favorite thing about mirrors is that they really challenge that character. When you look in the mirror, your character, who you're playing for yourself and for society, the way you think you have to present yourself, constantly manage the ways you're coming across so that you can fit in and be accepted and conditioned into a lot of various roles that we feel like we have to live up to. You can just look in a mirror at any time and that just washes away. You go back to your real self underlying all of it. And I think that's really important. That's one of the big things for me that relates to flower power. And another thing is we all are children of the earth, so we all have that flower power within us. And it's been having a hard time surviving, kind of being pushed, like how we were pushed a little bit at this event to move the parking over to this side. That's been happening in a lot of ways to the flower power all over the country. It goes back to like we all descend from tribes. And one thing I really love that one of my favorite speakers, John Trudell, talks about is that each one of us comes from a tribe that was connected with the nature, and we all at some point met that energy that came and started conditioning us, putting us into these roles through trauma and violence, making us feel like we have to become a character and limit our true selves and not let the flower power shine through. But I think for me, flower power means returning to that, rejecting the idea that you have to live up to these standards and live your life this way. It means coming back to who you really are, your authentic being, exiting the game, exiting what's not designed with your benefit in mind. And I've had a lot of issues I've ran into in my life related to flower power, especially when I went to Florida State University at college. I had a lot of bureaucratic limitations and run-ins with that kind of thing because I was talking about deconditioning a lot. That's a group I have, the Decondition Missions, flushing the cultural programming, trying to remove that. And I use a bunch of D's to talk about it, the D's of deconditioning. And the first one there is dissatisfaction. I do think we should be a little dissatisfied with the way Mother Earth is being treated right now, that the flower power is being greatly limited by the culture at this point, and we need to get dissatisfied about that. Another one is dissolution. That's probably the most important one for me, dissolution of the conditioning, dissolution of the program. completely exiting. Even this physical body is easily dissolved, just entering a meditation, flying through to alternate realities. We need to explore different realms of our perception. We need to get out and experience life, travel, go to different areas, explore. Life is short. We need to get out there. And then discovery and destiny. Those are two coming together like this in communities, sharing the culture, just helping people to realize that we don't have to keep playing the games that we feel like we're confined to. And another way I think this is done is by freeing the balloon. So I got that concept because my mom, she's a herbalist. She teaches herbalism classes out in Milton. If anybody wants to go to any of those, I can give you some information later. But my dad, we have some issues at times. He's in the military. He's a master sergeant in the Air Force. And I got the idea about the balloon because my mom, she would kind of like sarcastically thank him for holding down her balloon string, like, "Oh, thank you for holding down my balloon string and not letting me fly when I want to." So one thing I talk about a lot is we really do need to just cut the balloon string. Not necessarily her get a divorce, but cut the balloon string. If you're being tied down to something, if you're being held back in any way, you need to really free the balloon, release that, explore all the different shades of reality. Let yourself go, allow yourself to experience the spirit. Grounding is okay, but I'm a very ungrounded person. I like to soar in. That's kind of why that's my name, one of the reasons. But really free your balloon. The flight of Icarus, that's related to the balloon too. It's always framed in a negative light. Like if you let yourself be free, if you let yourself fly off into the sunlight, you're gonna burn. Even Christianity gives you that message, like you'll burn for all eternity for experiencing the Spirit, having a direct connection to the mystery instead of getting all of it from a priest. But really, I think it's about exploring that, going out in nature and returning to what we've lost in this culture. In a lot of ways, the industrial civilization has pounded out of us through the trauma. But we can still free the balloon, we can fly toward the sun, and I don't think we're gonna burn. I think if anything burns, it's gonna be the cultural conditioning that we need to get rid of. It's gonna be us coming back to who we really are, moving forward into the light. And I really think that's gonna happen. It happened in the 60s, it tried to happen again. In the 90s, it's a 30-year cycle. 30 years after that is 2020. So it's gonna happen again. All right, that's all I've got.
I'd hug you, but I wasn't sure if you wanted a hug or not.
Oh, good. And how do you say your last name?
Prismagistus. I wanted to be able to say it. Okay, that's lovely. You're welcome. That was nice. That sparked a lot of thoughts, I'm sure, for you guys as well. The very first one about the soil conditioning, or that's what I got from it. I'm sure that's not exactly what he said, but how we as plants or as creatures, the soil that we're in and what we're surrounded by really does affect us. And then there's a song, I don't know if anybody knows the group Nickel Creek. Anybody? Okay, that's your homework for tonight. Yes, James raised his hand. Go home and look up Nickel Creek. They're a bluegrass band, but they have a song called When You Come Back Down, and it so touches on what you said about the balloon, because it's a, I don't know if it's a father to a daughter, or it could be, James, do you remember? No. But it's someone singing to someone else saying, I set you free, basically, to do what you're meant to do, but I'll be here for you when you come back down. And always been touched by that song. So we have another, okay, we've already done this one. Yeah. Do we have any more paper thoughts? No? Okay, so so far we just have one more person on my clipboard that's way over there. I can't see what name is on it. Is it Rob? Okay, thank you. So if anybody else has been inspired and you feel like this is completely unintimidating and you can get up here and share, you are completely welcome to get up and share. Spur of the moment, just tell us your story, and we would love to hear you. But as of now, Rob is going to come and speak.
Right. Yeah, that was a good last message there, because there's a good chance there's going to be a lot of people here next time. So if you ever wanted to tell a story and give it a go, now's the time to do it. This is a nice, intimate crowd. So, and welcome to the garden, everybody. My wife's Elizabeth. She runs the garden, and she might relate to this story. So, April 24, 1999, 20 years ago next Thursday, was the Daffodil Festival in Nantucket, Massachusetts. And that also happens to be the day that Elizabeth and I got married. So next Thursday, April 24th, 2019 is our 20th anniversary. And so we're going to be celebrating that. And this is a bit of the story leading up to us standing at a lighthouse with a 17-degree wind chill factor, but beautiful skies and just a handful of loved ones around us. So it began really back when I was a senior in high school, working in a physical therapy office, and Elizabeth was working there as well. She's 8.5 years older than me. You'd never know it by looking at her and looking at me. But that is the case. And so as an 18-year-old senior in high school, someone who's 8.5 years older than you, who's cute and bubbly and whatever, we developed a really good friendship, and I really liked her a lot, but she's an adult. Like, there was no thought ever of a relationship. So in fact, we just became friends and really enjoyed being around each other. As a matter of fact, she took me to a congratulations on graduating lunch for my senior year, and I attended her first wedding. And she actually saved me a flower from her bouquet from that wedding and gave it to me later on after the wedding. And so we had that kind of relationship for years and years. But we always stayed in touch, and we always stayed close, even as we dated other people. I went off to Africa for a while, and she was one of the few people that wrote me letters, and we even stayed in touch half a world apart. And so, I came back, ended up moving back to my hometown, Fairhope, right down there, down the road. And we reconnected, and just from there, we toyed with this weird idea. We've been together for so long, we like each other more than anybody else we ever date. Why don't we give this a go? And I can't remember who came up with it first, but either way, one of us freaked out. And then that one was more accepting of like considering a dating relationship than the other one freaked out. I don't know who it was first, but I remember that I did. I was like, what? No, I don't see you like that. And then really absorbing it, it's like, this totally makes sense. And so there began our dating relationship, and there began some very tumultuous years for us. 2 years up to the date that we got married. Tumultuous in the sense of we had a lot of good times. The early dating stuff, that was good. Me freaking out, relationships and all this other, the just typical young guy stuff, and then Elizabeth going off to Auburn. She was already at Auburn finishing her degree there, and me doing my thing, and just those kind of had their own challenges, which is a lot of normal foundational relationship stuff. At the same time, once we started dating, my parents absolutely loved Elizabeth. Once we started dating, they completely rejected her. That was one of the most difficult things I've emotionally endured in my life, and so we endured through that, because this was something that was much more significant than obviously they were seeing. And so we continued forward, and just we knew this was going in a good direction. She graduated. I got accepted down to a doctoral program in South Florida. she came with me down there. Big move. And so we did that, and things continued to progress forward. That's great. Now comes the day and time when I decided that I want to ask her to marry me, and I happened to be home here in Fairhope at that time and staying with my parents. And this is how the announcement was made. It's not the joyous occasion of, hey, guess what? I'm going to ask Elizabeth to marry me. And everybody is like, yay, all right, we're so excited. You're going to make such a great couple, It was more like, Mom and Dad, I got to tell you something. I'm beyond caring what you think at this point, and I'm just going to tell you, I'm asking Elizabeth to marry me, and if you want to be a part of our lives and be a part of the marriage, the wedding, you're welcome to be, but this is going to happen. And silence, and fast forward on down the road, April 24th, 1999, we had picked an island. We wanted to get married on an island. I'd heard of this island called Nantucket because some friends had worked there over summer, and so we picked this little island that actually had on that day a daffodil festival. Daffodils are symbolic for renewal and new beginnings. And so what a perfect beginning and renewal to our relationship that was already there, but beginning to a journey of 20 years. And just to tie up the story, immediately after we were married, immediately after my parents realized we were getting married, they completely turned back around, came back around to letting go of their agenda and loving Elizabeth. And we have a great relationship with them, and they love her so much. But this is where we are. Coming up next Thursday, the 24th, is our 20-year anniversary, and it's been really 20 years of an amazing journey, full of definitely daffodils of renewal and exciting new adventures. So thank you all. Thank you, Elizabeth. I love you.
I'm a clown at heart, Rob. I had to jump for it. So thank you. Oh, that was amazing as well. And I felt like being here has been so cathartic. And I wasn't sure how I would feel being here and listening to stories, because it can be a toss-up. Stories might not be good, but I have loved the stories, and I actually got a chance to listen to the Moth Story Hour on NPR. I texted Elizabeth. That's making noises. I texted Elizabeth, and it just was on the radio on Sunday, I think, on NPR. And the guy who was talking, which made me really excited about this, asked his mom for a straitjacket for Christmas. You guys, yes, you have to find this story in particular. It was so funny. And his mom, spoiler alert, found a straitjacket for him and gave it to him. But do we have any more thoughts? Paper thoughts? We do have another storyteller. Someone has been inspired. Ashley is going to come and tell us her story. Do you want to use this, or do you want to hold it?
So, when I graduated high school, when I graduated high school, I went through like a lot right after I found out like I didn't get my diploma, not my high school diploma, but like something unrelated. And my grandfather died, and I had surgery like all within the same week. And it was really, really hard on me. And around that time, my boyfriend started to become very like emotionally abusive as well. And my first job was in a hydroponic garden. And I honestly think that like that job saved my life, just being able to go every day, even after my surgery. I remember I would go, and I shouldn't have, and just go sit with the plants. And I know this is kind of short, but I guess that's like my flower power, was sitting with those plants. And even though I was going through this really difficult time in this transitional period, it helped me get through that. And now, like great and I'm fine, and it's all over. And I'm really grateful to have had that experience. So.
I like that, sitting with the plants. That's great. In Europe, they have no, that's fine. In Europe, they have a practice with beehives. They have them enclosed, just like a normal beehive, but they attach a mask to it. So there's this tube, and it comes out of the beehive, and it attaches to what looks like a gas mask. So the only air you can breathe comes out of the beehive. And beehives have been scientifically researched and shown to have such powerful gifts of healing that people actually do this for the health benefits of it. And that's what I thought of when I thought of sitting with the plants, because they're releasing oxygen. Yes. I was like, wait, is that right? Yes. They're releasing things we need more than we can even quantify. And so that was fabulous. Thanks, Ashley. Wow. A woman is sitting in a park holding a rose alone by the water. She is approached by a young girl. She holds the flower up and asks the young girl, "Isn't the flower beautiful?" The girl says yes. She then takes the flower and holds it behind her back and asks the young girl, "Is the flower beautiful now?" The girl says, "Yes." Joe.
Okay, so this is all improvised, so I'm gonna cheat. But I wanted to tell a story to sort of connect a loose end that's been in my life for a long time, and it occurs in my first semester of college as an undergraduate. The reason I thought of this story is because on my dresser at home, I keep a box of mementos. I don't like pictures or things like that. I like things that I can touch and remember, and more specifically, I like words, which is why I'm trying to be a novelist. And so most of the things in this box contain letters that have been written to me, or letters that I've written and received back, or things like that, and just things that really struck me as very important, things that are worth keeping. And one of these letters is from a woman named Savannah, who wrote a letter to me in my first semester of college, thanking me for my friendship to her and the relationship that we had, and her nickname was Flower. So Savannah had narcolepsy, and what narcolepsy is, if you don't know, is it's a sleep disorder that causes you to fall asleep in random intervals and sleep for very long periods of time. So she was asleep for up to 16, 17 hours a day. And to tie this into the earth and to flower power as well, in grasslands, what happens is when wildfire happens, it burns off acres and acres and miles worth of grass. But the roots remain intact. So basically they're still alive, but you can't really tell looking at the surface. All you see on the surface is dust. And that's sort of what happened to Savannah when she was asleep, is that she struggled with depression and anxiety. And so what would happen is the world would kind of just burn over her, and she would feel very lost and very alone. And so I tried my darndest to make her feel better about herself and to make her feel like she had company. We had many dinners together, many afternoons together, and when she was awake, I tried to be there for her. But at one point in time, late in our first semester, she was browsing Twitter or Tumblr or something like that at the time, and she found a poem that was very powerful to her. I don't remember the poem, but I remember it was about flowers, and the gist of the poem was that life is a lot like a blooming flower. You start out in the soil, you grow and you grow and you grow, and no matter what you struggle through or what you become, you eventually blossom. And she was very inspired by the story because her nickname is Flower. And so she tried her, I really want to swear, but I'm sorry. She tried very, very hard to blossom herself. And the reason why I wanted to tell you the story is because what she always wanted to do with her life was to inspire people, specifically to inspire women. And I never got the chance to help her do that because she ultimately dropped out of college, but she still lives a happy life now. But the reason why I told you that story is because she, in a very small, indirect way, but nevertheless a very meaningful one, helped me to blossom. Because what she taught me with her narcolepsy and with how she inevitably ended up coping with it, I've struggled with depression my entire life too. I've struggled with it since I was in middle school. I've been bullied and emotionally manipulated and just the whole 9 yards. And at that time, I wasn't talking about that to anyone. But what she taught me with her narcolepsy and how she coped with it is that being awake and being conscious is always a privilege. Even if you have depression or anxiety, the ability to experience the world at the level that we experience it, the ability to have such complex human emotions is a blessing. And even though it doesn't always feel like it, it's important to keep that perspective, because in our society, the rational and the thoughtful is starting to win more and more and more. And as I grow older, I see more and more people my age and more people below my age that are trying to reject their emotions or bottle them or get rid of them with drugs or things like that. But the more we come to terms with them, the more we tap into them, the more human we become. And a lot of my novels focus on those themes. And so I just wanted to tell you that in a very small way, Savannah, the narcoleptic, helped me blossom, and that was her flower power.
I'm so glad you decided to share. Spur of the moment, you and Ashley. Sorry, guys. Being awake and being conscious is a blessing. That was so powerful. I had a dream. I still remember the way the dream made me feel. It must have been 30 years ago. I dreamed in my dream that I had been asleep for my whole life. And when someone woke me up, they told me these things that I had done while I was asleep. And I was so sad that I hadn't experienced them. And that dream has stayed with me, that being awake and being conscious is a blessing. You can do all of these things. Savannah was asleep, but we're awake. And you can do all of these things and never experience them fully. Or you can experience them fully. The choice is yours. So decide, do we have any more flower thoughts? Paper thoughts? Do we have any more stories? Yes? Okay, Aiden.
All right, hi everyone, I'm Aiden. I'm gonna start this off by saying I'm really sorry if you can't understand me. I have a slight lisp, so it's kind of hard sometimes, but my whole life has encompassed flowers. We own a garden center, so I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Flower Tree Gardens, but my family owns that, and from the day I was born, we've been out in the dirt, potting plants, selling plants, landscaping. We had a florist at one point, and honestly, I took it for granted the whole entire time. I just thought it was a business, we sold plants, that's that. I grew up working the florist at way too young of an age, making arrangements like 4 or 5, so if anyone got any crappy arrangements, that was from me. Apologize. And that was like my happy place, I guess. I don't know if anyone's ever been in a cooler, like a food cooler, a flower cooler. It is the best place in the whole entire world, especially a flower one. It smells amazing. It's nice and cold. If you ever, get in trouble, you get to go in there and have your freak out in there and not out in front of everyone. But like I said, I took it all for granted, and then I decided that I was grow up, go to college, get a corporate job. And I was like, oh my gosh, Mom, let me be a landscape designer now, because that's what she does. I did that for a while. I decided that I hated not having any structure, so I went back to corporate. Now I'm not a corporate fan. But with that being said, I wake up all the time seeing when I can get to work and how soon I can get out so I can go home and work in my garden. Right now I have pumpkins growing. It's so cool. I didn't think you could grow pumpkins in this crappy soil that we have here, the sand, but they're thriving. And my friends, they make fun of me and they call me a farmer, and I love it. I love every second of it. My biggest accomplishment was buying a lawnmower. It's a crappy lawnmower. It's a plug-in one too. I don't know if anyone's ever mowed their lawn with a plug-in lawnmower, but it's horrible. So luckily my grass got tall enough that I could mow it recently. And I was out there by myself, the golden hour, it was probably like 6:30. And in that moment, mowing my yard was my coming to God moment where I was like, oh my God, this is where I'm supposed to be in life. Mowing my front yard And it was the best feeling ever. And so now I wait for my grass to grow so I can go home and mow it again and have that one moment of happiness. That's my story.
Now you guys keep in mind, Aiden's not a public speaker. Okay. Excellent. Yes. I also grew up, my grandfather was a nurseryman. So some of my first memories are making cuttings. Right? Break it off, put it in a pot. Break it off, put it in a pot. So that's always a fun way to grow up, and that was beautiful. Thank you, Aiden. Thank you, everybody.
So, y'all, thank you so much for coming to the first of hopefully many Moth-like story slams.